If you're going to be in corporate, if you're going to play that game, then master it so that you get out of it what you want.
Everything is competition. Life is full of game.
People say, it's exhausting to have to play that game. And I'm like, well, don't do it then. And then continuously complain about where you're at in your career.
Depending on what your job is, there is a level of extracurricular activity that you are required to do, whether it's written in your work description or not.
You always know just the threat level by how you're treated. You're definitely being studied.
I tried to get out of it and I just couldn't make it happen.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Coffee No Cream podcast. My name is Erin Braxton and I'm the host of Coffee No Cream. Here on Coffee No Cream, we are unapologetically dedicated to Black women and we share what I like to call Coffee No Cream moments, those things that happen to us Black women in business and in life just because we are Black women. Now, today is the third in our summer rewind series, and we are going to be talking about the game and playing the game as Black women in business, as Black women in corporate and life. Now, I have brought this topic up several times. If you've been watching me for a while, I have talked about this in numerous videos, but we've also had this conversation with many of our guests. We've talked with Bernie Frazier about it. She's a corporate coach. She even has a whole framework to work through the game of moving up in corporate. We've spoken to Ashley Morgan. We've had conversations with Tracie or Thinking Out Loud. We've had the conversation with Abby, the attorney. So this is something that comes up often. I think so many times, many of us who consider ourselves not to be competitive, who don't want to play games, we don't like it when we're talking about playing the game. But if you want to be in corporate spaces, if you have to be in corporate spaces, if that is the way that you get your money, there is a level of game that needs to be played. Maybe you call it something else. Maybe you don't like the word game. I don't know. But there is game associated with being a Black woman, working, navigating those spaces. So we're going to reflect back. We're going to look at some of the conversations that I've had with Bernie, some of the conversations that I've had with Ashley Morgan and Tracie, Thinking Out Loud, and Abby, the attorney, because I'm not just making this stuff up, guys. I don't need to play games just for the sake of playing games. I'm saying this as a way to help you guys propel yourselves forward, to think strategically so that you can get what you want out of your job, out of your careers, out of your life, all right? So before we get into it, I just want to ask you guys to please like, please share, please subscribe to the podcast channel. Hit that subscribe button so you can be notified every time we have a new video come up. We also have a Facebook group, coffeenocream.com/free is where you can download or access almost 2,000 free educational resources. And I think that's it. So I will see you over there.
If you're going to be in corporate, if you're going to play that game, then master it so that you get out of it what you want. And I have coached, I'm in year 29 for coaching. I have coached so many people, a lot of Black people, a lot of Black women, especially. That's probably the largest demographic that I've focused on. But I have coached white men, Hispanic women, Indian men. I've coached all. And one of the biggest challenges that I have seen consistently is, one, people don't really know what they want. Or if they do know what they want, they're afraid to go after it. And because of that, they end up settling, which means you end up frustrated, which means you end up not getting what you want. And so one of the things that I have shared with audiences when I do speaking, and I've shared it with clients, is this whole notion of the unwritten rules. Because there are some in corporate, and there's some at every level. There's some in every job and every company. And a lot of times we as Black people, and I'll say we as Black women, we don't take the time to get to know those. So we end up beating our heads doing all of this stuff that we think should work, and it's not working for us. And I always say it's because you don't understand those things that are not written down, but they're just really critical for you to know in order for you to start to get what you want out of the deal.
Okay, so when you say a lot of us don't know what we want, go into that. What do you mean by that? We don't know where we want to go. We don't know where we're headed. We don't know how much we want to make. What is it?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. I would say for maybe the last 15 years, I have anybody who watches this, if they know me, they'll probably start laughing because I ask this question everywhere I go. And that question is, what do you want? So probably over the last 15 years, I have really started to fuse this question into my coachings, again, speaking, just in general conversations. And if I had to guess at how many people couldn't give me a clear answer, I'd say about 95%. They can't clearly articulate, this is what I want out of my work. And I'm talking about work, your vocation or whatever. And I always think, if you don't know what you want, then how would you recognize it when you see it? Or how do you know where to put your efforts so that you get it? So what I have found, most people out here, they're reactive. They're very tactical about their career. They're not strategic at all. And I'm going, this is why you're not getting what you want, because you're just, they offer me the job and they're going to pay me a little more money, so I took it. And I tell people, most of my corporate career, I did recruiting. I was a recruiting leader. And I know how to pimp you. I come to you with a little bit larger title. That's the reality. That's how I'm pimping you. I give you a little bit larger title. I offer you more money. And the overwhelming majority of people will fight to take it. And they never stop and ask, is this in alignment with what I want? So they keep taking assignment after assignment like that. And then they look up 15, 20, 25, 30 years down the road and they're miserable, or what I call they're bored, burned out, or frustrated. And I'm going, well, let's talk about why. You've been going down a path that wasn't even what you wanted.
Okay. People say they don't want to play games because they feel like if they're playing games, it is not productive. It is not serving them well. They feel like it's petty, it's silly, it's not mature, right? But that's not true. I think the bigger mistake, misconception, misunderstanding when you say you don't want to play games out here is that by not playing them, you're still not in the competition, right? Everything is competition. Life is full of game, all right? And I'm not saying that because I particularly like playing games, because I confront people. I like to meet them at face value. I take them at face value. I feel, or I used to feel like, well, I'm being honest, so they must be being honest. And this is the way I would handle it, so that's the way they're handling it. And when I really matured and learned that that is not the way the world works, and it's certainly not the way it works for a Black woman in business, it's just like my eyes have opened. I have been let down, hurt, upset, diminished, all of the things, because I just was walking around out here in La La Land, not playing to win. And people will say, well, I don't want to win. I just want to. That's fine. If you don't want to participate, sure, you're not participating. Let you tell it, but you are participating. People will say, I don't like to be competitive. I don't like to compete. I call bullshit on that as well, because I feel like everything we do is a competition. Everything we do, when we go out for a job, it's a competition. When we're dating, it's a competition. When we're vying for attention from anybody, just anything we're doing, it's a competition. We are in a game, and Black women, the game is twice as strategic, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as strategic and challenging for us.
People say it's exhausting to have to play that game. And I'm like, well, don't do it then. and then continuously complain about where you're at in your career. It feels exhausting when you don't know how to do it, but if somebody gives you a roadmap and just helps you come into understanding, I talk a lot about executive psychology and buyer psychology and just understanding how they think. Because when you understand how someone thinks, you can modify your behavior as needed to just get from them what you want. So people will be like, that's manipulative. I mean, I think to a certain degree, we're all manipulating everyone, right? We all exist in this marketplace.
We really are.
So you have to be doing it with intention, though. Like, this is what I want for my career next. This is what's purposeful and meaningful for me. And so I'm going to advocate for myself in this way to this person. So, I think understanding, again, that corporate's a marketplace and, what your product is and then knowing how to talk about it. The thing I would say probably most is you've got to know how to translate the results you create into language that lands with, like, your frontline team, right? I work mostly with leaders. So you've got to be able to speak in a way that lands with your frontline team, a way that lands with your peers, and a way that lands with senior executives. And they all need a different type of communication. When you know what those things are, when you know what that looks like, your path gets easier, your path gets smoother. The challenges that we face, they just are a part of our reality. And so we can spend a lot of time arguing with what has been, or we can just acknowledge those are circumstances and I choose to rise above. And I'm equipped to rise above. I'm capable of rising above.
When you work in a place, depending on what your job is, there is a level of extracurricular activity that you are required to do, whether it's written in your work description or not. That's just fact, okay? Now, a lot of times, people try to insinuate themselves into what it is you have going on or decide for you what you can and cannot do. When people ask you to do things that you don't want to do, for example, they want you to go to happy hour, they want you to go drink, they want you to do that, do this, whatever. You don't have to say no all the time and just distance yourself, because let's be honest, you're trying to preserve your job. You might be trying to advance yourself in this organization. You might need these people as a reference one day, okay? So you can't just completely disassociate yourself completely. You have to play along to get along. And that's just the way it is. We don't want to be at work in the first place, but we do have to be at work. So realistically, depending on what job you have, you are going to have to do some shit you don't want to do. You are going to have to socialize and do some shit you don't want to do. And, it's not always terrible. Work events can be fun. They can be cool. You don't have to participate in everything, Put a boundary up. Decide, okay, I'm going to go to one happy hour every, quarter. If that's enough for you. Because I guarantee you, in a lot of situations, if you don't, unfortunately, they're going to be looking at you in a certain way. People can disagree with me if they want to, and you don't have to. But I'm suggesting that you play along to get along while you have your boundaries up and you're planning your exit, your strategy to get out, to get another job, whatever it is you're doing. You're not trying to burn bridges with these people. You're just trying to be cool so you can utilize their reference or whatever, all right? People ask you to do stuff. Don't give them a hard no. You don't have to act funky like, no, I don't do that. You could just be like, you know what? Oh my God, that sounds so cool. I would love to, but blah, blah, blah. I've got this other thing planned. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. I've got this other. Be lovely about it. And then, every once in a while, go. Whatever. When they start talking about what old girl's doing in accounting or what old girl's doing or old boy is this or so-and-so sleeping with so-and-so, don't be a part of it. Pivot the conversation. Act surprised. Really? And pivot the conversation. If they keep talking about it, move on around to the next person at the happy hour. There are ways around it. Ways around dealing with the bullshit. I'm just telling you that If you need to play along to get along, that's fine. Sometimes, a lot of times, white people or people at work are a problem, but they're not the problem. And that's the distinction that you need to make.
You always know just the threat level by how you're treated. You're definitely being studied.
So how do you handle this stuff now that you're seasoned in it? You've been working, you've got the experience. When this stuff happens today, like how do you deal with it?
For me, I've reached a level of unbotheredness in the sense that, like a lot of times I know I did a video a few weeks ago about this attorney. I was leaving the office to go get some coffee, and she was with a group of law clerks. They were coming back from court, and she just stopped me and was like, "Where do you think you're going?" And, most people would try to explain themselves or say something or like clap back like I'm none of your business or whatever. And I just kind of looked at her like this, and I went, and I turned around and I crossed the street. I didn't even say anything to her, acknowledge, because I've learned, sometimes you do have to say something, and there's a way that you can say it that will make them kind of step back,
Right.
But a lot of times if I'm quiet or I just kind of look at them a certain way and walk off, I mean, there's seriously been instances where somebody's made a comment about, "Oh, well, you're all dressed up today. What's the occasion?" I won't say anything. I'll just keep walking. Or I might say something like, "I just like to look nice. I take pride in my appearance."
Right.
You can say it like that instead of just going completely off the rails, because, we can't do that. We can, but it causes more problems. But that is pretty much how I've handled things. Also, I will go and say something to the manager, even if I know that they're not going to address it. They might just brush it off, because I've had things come up in previous jobs where I'll go to that person first, and I'm like, "What you said was offensive, or do you realize how this came across?" And then you get this feign ignorance, like, "Oh, I didn't mean it that way," but it sticks because they act differently around you. They might change their tactics because you've called them out. They don't like that, but it's definitely made them rethink how they approach you. So
how does it play out? Like, have you noticed a difference? Because I'm interested, like, when you just look at them and don't say anything and keep going, because that's so not my personality to do that. But I love that. And I just don't encounter this kind of stuff so much anymore because, I'm just not in an office. But do you find that angers them? Do you find that works and just kind of shuts it down when you choose that approach?
Oh, yeah, it does. It angers them very much. It depends on who it is. Because if it's somebody that's very much like this one attorney that I had worked with, and I've done a couple of videos about her in particular, she was very much, you have to figure out what that person is. She was a control freak.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't like that I wasn't one of those paralegals that was just, "Oh my gosh, you're an attorney. How can I be of service to you?" And, of course we're there to help them, but we're not there to kiss their feet.
Right.
And that's what she was expecting. And so, and even the office admin, we'd had a situation where I had to go to her, and she said, "This is the problem. You're not catering to her the way that she thought that you would, or that other people did." And so with her, it is having that attitude of indifference and just being unbothered, because she wants you to get upset. She wants you to argue with her and get a rise out of her. And so when I respond that way, I'm just kind of indifferent, like, "Oh, I don't know." Or she might say something snarky like, "Well, this is how I wanted this done." Or I'm like, "Okay, could you send that in an email? Put that in writing, please." And I'm still calm. She's kind of standing there like a child who just threw a tantrum and just looking, crazy. It's just, there was one particular thing that she had done. She had copied the shareholder on an email she sent me about something, when it could have been a very simple, "Hey, when you're doing these type of pleadings, would you please use this template?" That's all she had to do. But she sends this email, and this was like my first week at this job as a paralegal. And it was just this 2-paragraph email. "Please do this, and please make sure that you do this, and also you need to do this, and you didn't do this the last time." Like, just airing out all
How old was this woman?
She was an associate attorney that I was working with when I worked at a private law firm.
Uh-huh.
And it was just this whole thing, and she had the shareholder copied, and I thought, she's really trying to put out here, "See, look, she's not doing things that I like." Like, it was very much just kind of this whiny, bratty, like, and after she sent the email, she steps out of her office, because the way the office was set up, my desk was right outside her office. So, like, she literally could walk out and take a few steps, and she's right there.
Right.
And she said, Oh, did you get that email like that? And I said, oh, I did. I said, thank you. And she said, I just thought it'd be easier to send you an email. And I just wanted to make sure. And she was referring to the shareholder, said, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure he was aware, that I was just letting you know how we do things around here. But really, she wasn't. She was complaining and being passive aggressive. And
Sure.
I said, that's great. And I said, I appreciate you also attaching a template for me to look at to use going forward. And she just looked at, I mean, the look on her face was just like,
Mm-hmm.
and after I said that, I turned back to my computer, kept typing, going back to what I was doing. And she stood there for a few minutes and I could just feel her staring at me. And then she just turned back around and went in her office. And then later on that day, she went out to get lunch and asked me if I wanted anything. And I said, no, thank you. And she comes back anyway and brought me some like iced coffee. I said, no, thank you. I'm good. And she still just kind of, so it's things like that. And, then there are
Mm-hmm.
some people you can act that way too, or you can say something kind of witty or snarky yourself, but it doesn't really sound that rude.
Right, right.
And they will immediately just back off. But you get, I'm not going to say anything to her because she got all, but they won't do it. So I feel like that's been effective. There are times when you do just have to kind of go postal on people. But
I like that though. What did you call it? Something of unbotheredness. How did you state that?
it's a level of
I
unbotheredness.
like that. Yeah, I like that.
And not that
Um,
you're excusing the behavior, but it's just like I'm not going to let. There was an episode on the show Insecure. I don't know if you've seen that, watched the
oh
series,
yeah.
but the one where Molly's working at the law firm, and she finds out that one of the associates, who's a white guy, is making more money than her, and she's out having drinks with her friend, and he says, "Stop letting these white people stress you out."
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that my parents would always tell me. I'd come home and I'd say, "Oh, this happened," or I'm calling them and telling them, because it's all about just trying to get us riled up and act out of
Oh yeah.
character.
Let's just say somebody sends me a text message on a Saturday. If I respond to it right then and there, they're going to know that if they send me a message, I'm going to respond. If they call me and I pick up the phone and like, what's up? They're going to know that I'm going to pick up the phone. And sometimes they'll call once and sometimes they'll keep calling to see if you'll pick up. People will test you, right? And if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. That's just what people will do. So say somebody texts me and you want to respond. It's bothering you. You really just want to just give them the answer. I just want to respond. What I do, I respond, but I schedule the send. And then I've done it. It's off. It's off my chest and it's done. Because what I don't want them to do, even if they sent me an email and I'm just scrolling through my email one night and I see they sent me an email at like 10 o'clock at night and I want to respond, I don't want them to know that I'm up working at 10 o'clock at night, even though I have been in the past and I will be. I will schedule the email to go out the next morning sometime. I won't send a response at that time because even if they're in bed by the time you respond, this sort of behavior is telling them that you work outside of normal business hours, right? So Black women, our desire to give and nurture and rescue and save the day, we got to cut that shit. Work trip, everybody's going.
I got a story.
Okay. What do? I mean, they're like, let's get drinks, let's go to dinner. Obviously, you're there for work. It's often not mandatory, I guess, but it's expected.
An annual trip to Lake Lanier. Yes, Lake Lanier. The first year of that event, I tried to get out of it and I just couldn't make it happen. And so what I decided to do instead was I'm just not going to get off the boat, because what they would do is go out on a boat, the boat would park somewhere and everyone swims and paddles around. I did not want to be in my swimsuit around these people, not even a one piece. And so my idea was I'm just going to stay on the boat. I'm not taking any of my clothes off and I'll just find ways to still talk to people, because the point is I'm supposed to talk and make friends and develop relationships outside of my a few people that I work for, and get more work and get more clients and blah 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 blah.
So, as you can see, we've had a lot of conversations around playing the game, and I just want to encourage you to look at it differently, to look at playing the game as a way to get what it is you want. Because whether or not you call yourself playing the game is still being played around you. You are in the game. You are in there, whether you choose to participate or not. And most of the times, if you don't participate, you're not going to get what you want. You need to put your boundaries up. You need to be strategic in how you're moving and flowing through these workspaces and workplaces, how you interact with people, how you choose to engage in the office. All of that, I'm calling all of that game. So leave me a comment. Tell me how you guys play the game, how you deal with conflict at work as part of playing the game, how you show up when it's time to travel with people, when it's time to go to happy hours, when it's time to react or not react to coworkers who are trying to play game with you. I want to hear about it in the comments. So hopefully there'll be some good conversation down there, because you know I love to engage with you guys in the comment section. So that's it. That's all. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.